Good evening, everyone. As we are approaching towards our day of fate, the prelims examination, as we call it in the UPSC parlance, we have to be ready with the current affairs. I know it's a huge burden to balance current affairs and static portion and optionals, but I'm here to help you on a daily basis from Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. so that you can know what is important from the perspective of current affairs and what's really not. Do not worry about notes because I have provided through my Telegram channel, Pooja Dwivedi UPSC. If you have any queries regarding this examination, feel free to talk to me on my Instagram. Now, these are the various events that we have to cover. Last time I asked a question pertaining to bicameral legislature in the states, and many of you have answered it correctly. So let's talk about this. Consider the following states: Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Odisha. How many of the states given above have bicameral legislature? The Constitution of India for our parliament provides a bicameral legislature. That means Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha is the house of the people, also known as the lower house, and Rajya Sabha is the council of states, also known as the upper house. But our constitution also respected the federal structure, saying that it need not be imposed on the states. That means not every state can have, or if it wants to have a bicameral legislature, it can, and if it doesn't want to, then it doesn't have to. So this is the beauty of our constitution. There are certain states, 6 in number, that have a bicameral legislature. That means they will have legislative council, that is the equivalent of Rajya Sabha, and they will have the legislative assembly, that is the equivalent of the Lok Sabha. So there are 6 states, as I told you, Bihar being one of them, Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra as well. Even Karnataka, Telangana and Madhya Pradesh are there. So first, third and fourth will be correct, second and fifth are not, 3 only will be the correct answer. And according to Article 169, it is the parliament that may by law either create or abolish the second house. Second house we call it the Vidhan Parishad or the Legislative Council in the states. So they can, the parliament can either create it or abolish it, only if the legislative assembly of that particular state has passed a resolution to create it or abolish it, and that is by a special majority. What is the necessity of a Vidhan Parishad or a legislative council in the states? First, not all can actually go through the turmoil of direct elections, and that does not mean that these gifted people should stay behind in contributing to the development of the state. So there is a separate house for them. And first, sometimes what happens that the legislative assembly of the states can make rash decisions. So in order to check those rash decisions as well, the council is made. All right, moving on. With respect to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, consider the following statements. In 1859, he first established a Farsi madrasa in Moradabad, but soon changed track. That means he backtracked from there. He believed that ijtihad was the need of the hour, while taqleed should be given up. And he pitched for parda-centric home education for women. How many of the statements given above is or are correct? Now, these kind of things are not found in any books. Sorry. Many of the questions that are generally asked after the conduct of the prelims by the students is, where do these questions come from? These questions can come from anywhere. That means if Syed Ahmad Khan has been in the news because of its birth anniversary, we must ensure we read about him. And that has to go beyond books. No book can satisfy the needs of this examination, specifically now. I have to say that. And a huge role is played by current affairs in that. And that is why I bring these classes to you in order to make you understand, don't only depend on books. Books are not going to suffice. So yes, if we talk about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, a pioneer in the education system for Muslims in India, he has done a lot for the upliftment of Muslims in education sector. He knew the importance of Western education. For his efforts, he has been called even a kafir by the Muslim clergy. So his efforts have to be, of course, there are certain criticisms. We are not going to go into criticisms today, but we are going to look at what he did for the upliftment of education system for the Muslims. Okay, so yes, in 1859 he first established a Farsi madrasa in Moradabad, but later on he changed track. He did not continue with it. Later on, He also established one more school in Ghazipur. And what happens from there? That he starts the importance, he starts making people aware, specifically the Muslim community aware of the Western education system. He believed that ijtihad, that means the interpretation of whatever has been written in various holy books of Islam, has to be interpreted according to the changing times. So yes, it was the need of the hour. We have to not remain stagnant in any particular era. And then taqleed should be given up. That means copying the old ways should be given up. This is what he believed. So second is definitely correct. First is also correct. One of the reasons why he has been criticized with respect to women empowerment was that he was not in favor of co-education system. When the British government started the co-education system, making sure that the school has the composition of both boys and girls in studying, so he wasn't in favor of it. He was completely against it. He said that we can do one thing, we can do parda centric home education for women. Although he did a lot for women empowerment, but we have to believe every person, every human being is actually a product of the circumstances that were prevailing at that time. And this, of course, makes us more humane in nature, in understanding how a human being was made back then. So, yes, he did his bit. Sometimes he also faltered. Every person has critiques and every person has the best of them as well. So, first is correct, second is correct, and third is also correct. All three will be the correct answer. He was born in 1870 and he was a civil servant, a journalist, educationist, social reformer, and historian, among many other things. The basket is full. He served the British administration before the revolt of 1857. In a pamphlet which was titled The Causes of the Indian Revolt, he tried to give the Indian perspective of it. Of course, for back then, for Britishers, it was very easy to make their history accessible. What about us? So, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan made sure that he was giving us the Indian perspective as well, and he pioneered the Aligarh movement, which still is in the hearts of the education system for Muslim upliftment. He was against religious intolerance, ignorance, and irrationalism. In his magazine, which was by the name of Tehzeebul Akhlaq, he tried to reform the society. So these are the kind of small crumbs that could be asked in your examination. In 1859, he first established a Farsi madrasa in Moradabad, but soon backtracked. But in 1863, he opened a Victoria school in Ghazipur. That was also, he was also being criticized on the name of it, Victoria School, that he was siding with the colonial government. And there he made ensured that not only science and history were taught, but English, Urdu, Arabic, Persian, and Sanskrit were taught, because he understood the importance of Western education system. He understood the importance of Muslims remaining at the bottom of the barrel because they could not get education properly. He was the one who made sure that Aligarh movement was working towards it. In 1864, he established the Scientific Society in Ghazipur for translating English, Persian, and Arabic writings into Urdu. He believed that ijtihad was the need of the hour, while taqleed should be given up. Also, he pushed for parda-centric home education for women. When the British government opened education schools for co-ed, in the co-ed nature, along with Bhartendu Harishchandra, he completely was against it. Although he worked a lot for women empowerment, for example, the Aligarh Institute Gazette, which was a multilingual journal started by him, that had a huge campaign against female infanticide, polygamy, child marriage, sati, segregation of widows, poverty induced marriages of young girls with older women. So we cannot completely criticize him, although he was a product of his own being. Which of the PVTGs do not have a habitat right? Kamar, Baiga, Bhujia, Bharia. Recently, Baiga tribes of Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, in certain regions, they also reside in Madhya Pradesh, they got habitat rights. I will talk about habitat rights as well. And before them, Kamar was the one who got it. For the first time ever, Bharia PVTG was the one that got for the first time ever a habitat right. There are 75 particularly vulnerable tribal groups that reside in 18 states and 1 union territory. But only 3 of them have habitat rights. I have told you which ones are these. Habitat rights should be given to more PVTGs because they are already vulnerable. How do we understand any tribe is a particularly vulnerable tribal group? If they are using pre-agriculture level of technology, if they have a stagnant population, if they are economically backward. These are the certain things. 3 out of 4 I have told you. You have to tell me one more in the comment segment. These are the certain unset criteria that has been set by the government. It's not mentioned in the constitution, on the basis of which how we can judge any tribe is just a tribe or a vulnerable, particularly vulnerable tribal group. There are tribes among the tribes that are very vulnerable. Okay. So Kamar, remember Kamar, Kamar, Bega and Bharia. These 3 have habitat rights. Bega, particularly vulnerable tribal group, became the second to get habitat rights in the state. Kamar was, state as in Chhattisgarh, Kamar was the one that got on August 9, and they reside in Rajnandgaon, Kavardha, Mungeli, Gaurela Pendra, Marwahi, Manendra, Bharatpur, Chirmiri and Bilaspur districts of state, also in certain regions of Madhya Pradesh. Alright, and the community has now gotten habitat rights through which they can explore their rights on the forest for customary territory of habitation, socio-cultural practices, economic and livelihood means. They can use the products for that. Intellectual knowledge of biodiversity and ecology, traditional knowledge of the use of natural resources, protection and conservation of their natural and cultural heritage. Section 3, Clause 1, Subclause E talks about these rights. This particular act is also known as Forest Rights Act, and Section 2, Clause H of FRA defines what habitat rights are. Out of 75 PVTGs in India, only 3 have it. The Bharia in Madhya Pradesh was the first one to get it. Consider the following statement. Statement 1 says, Section 70 of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act deals with offences by companies. If any offence is being committed by a company, then offences by companies. Statement 2 says, a political party is not a company incorporated under the Companies Act of 2013. Hence, Section 70 cannot bring a political party under the ambit of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. So we have to choose the correct answer over here. We have known that in the now scrapped excise policy, the liquor policy of the Delhi government, many individual ministers are being arrested. The courts have asked that why are you not making the entire political party an accused here? Why? Because whatever, according to the allegations, whatever Manish Sisodia and Sanjay Singh did, it was for the betterment of the party or for the benefit of the party, not for themselves only. So why not make the entire Aam Aadmi party an accused in this case? It has asked the Enforcement Directorate. There are certain provisions and laws according to which the ED will work. Similarly, according to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, Section 70 of it, it says that yes, any offence, if it is being committed by any company, then yes, they can be made an accused. They can be made an accused, and similarly, a political party can be brought under the ambit of Section 70. How? Although it is not a company that is actually registered under the Companies Act of 2013, but a company has been defined under the Money Laundering Act only as an association of persons as well. And a political party, because it is an association of persons, that can make it to be under the Section 70. So you have to understand the twists and turns UPSC will throw at you, and I am molding your brain accordingly. I'm not giving you very easy questions, doable like in the click of a, just blink of an eye, you have to do that question. It's not like that. You have to think. You have to be more analytical. You have to have more perspective for this examination. This examination, prelims examination specifically, is very challenging. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm going to tell you the reality. And once you know the reality, then only you will work, right? Gone are the days when you can just depend on certain books or certain test series and thereafter you can definitely do this examination. No, not at all. Why? Because the toppers have made it so clear time and again that you have to depend on this test series, this whatever magazine you have to depend upon. UPSC also sees all this. UPSC is sitting there and watching everything. So it doesn't want to be trapped in this entire narrative that is being thrown at us. Yes, you have to depend on certain basic books such as NCRT, either Indian Express or the Hindu, and that is enough to understand the basics of it. Thereafter, you will have to build your building over it. All right. And if you join the P2I batches of StudyIQ, you will get a lot of heft in understanding that. Okay. So section 70, this one is correct, but a political party is not a company. Hence, it cannot be brought under the section 70 of this act. No, that's not correct. Only statement 1 is correct. Statement 2 is not correct. Alright, moving on. The ED has told the Supreme Court that it is contemplating or thinking about adding the AAP as an accused in the money laundering probe. Do you even mean what does it imply? It means even now the chief minister can be arrested. This is what the implications are. Every person will be under the radar if the entire party is an accused. So section 70 of the PMLA says it deals with the offences by the companies. While a political party is not a company, the provision has a crucial explanation that could bring political party under the ambit of the law. Company actually means, according to this act only, any body corporate that includes a firm or other association of individuals. Now, a political party. What is a political party? According to section 29A of the Representation of People's Act, any association or body of individual citizens of India calling itself a political party. So both these sections have to be read together. Moving on. What is SVEEP? It is the flagship program of the Election Commission of India for voter education. It is a regulatory project of the Election Commission of India to identify and deregister inactive political parties, or an initiative by the ECI to ensure transparency in the electoral bond scheme, or none of the above. SVEEP was started in the year 2009 by the Election Commission of India, and it is an awareness program for voter education. Flagship scheme as well. That means A is correct, and it's a flagship program for the ECI voter education to ensure inclusive and participative democracy by encouraging all the eligible citizens to vote and make an informed decision as well as ethical choice. There is another one, that is NOTA. NOTA option gives us the option, the citizens of India, an option to not nominate any candidate for a position while voting. Then we have VVPAT, that is Voter Verified Paper Audit Trail. It is an independent verification printer machine that is attached to the EVM. And whenever we vote, if we have to confirm that we have voted for the same person or the same party here, and it is being registered similarly there, a VVPAT will show us the name of the candidate or the party symbol, like that. Okay. Consider the following statements with respect to the Surrogacy Act of 2021. Commercial surrogacy is banned in India, except in cases where the couples have children with certain physical or mental challenges. Under the Act, the surrogate should be married and have a child of her own. So, which of the statements given above is or are correct? Recently, the Surrogacy Act has been challenged on the ground that a woman can become a surrogate only if she is married and has a child of her own. So, second is definitely correct. We have certain exceptions with respect to who can actually avail surrogacy. And commercial surrogacy, even under these exceptions, is totally banned. So first, commercial surrogacy means nobody can become a surrogate for commercial benefits, cash benefits, reward benefit, or any sort of materialistic benefit. Although expenses have to be paid for the woman to go on with her surrogacy, medical expenses, insurance expenses, whatever expenses are pertaining to that period of time for becoming a surrogate. But commercial surrogacy is not there. First is incorrect on that very matter, and second is correct. Two only will be the correct one. The Delhi High Court has asked the centre why marital status is a criteria for a woman to avail surrogacy under the law, why the marital status of a woman is associated with her eligibility to undergo the procedure. Under section 2 clause 1 subclause S of the Surrogacy Act of 2021. An intending woman means an Indian woman who is a widow or divorcee between the age of 35 to 45 years and who intends to avail surrogacy. Surrogacy is a practice whereby one woman bears and gives birth to a child for an intending couple, and it intends to hand over the child to them after birth according to the act. It allows for surrogacy to be available only to infertile Indian married couples who cannot produce progeny. And it is read in accordance with another act, that is the Assisted Reproductive Technology Act of 2021, which pertains to technologies and procedures which are used for this purpose. All techniques that attempt to obtain pregnancy, such as handling the sperm or the oocyte outside the human body and transferring it into the reproductive system of a woman. Surrogate should be married and have a child of her own. That is one of the criteria. Indian couples with biological or adopted children are prohibited to undertake surrogacy. But there are certain exceptions if mental or physically challenged children are there, or those suffering from life-threatening disorder or fatal illness. Commercial surrogacy, even in these particular matters, is banned. Commercialization of surrogacy service or procedures or its components or component procedure. So only medical expenses can be paid. Moving on. Kulasekara Pattinam in Tamil Nadu, often seen in the news, is abyss again. It is an ancient port, new launch pad of ISRO, geological timeline site, or none of the above. Let me take the names of those students who have answered my last question correctly. So 3 only was the correct answer. Samita has answered it correctly. Simran, Riya, thank you so much. Shruti, Raghuveer, Dr. Priyadarshan, Shubham, Pragati, User, Unnati, Mansi, Padmashri, Sandy, Nikhil, Vijay, Mitlesh, Shivam has also Shivam has also answered it correctly. Nihar, Shantanu, Vaibhav, Gopesh, Shruti, Vivek, User, thank you Krishna, Swati, Information, Mallinath, Abhishek, Arpit, Komal, User again, somebody else, Manish, User ZB has answered it correctly, Naveen, Abul, thank you, Tap has answered it correctly, Sidhu, Aditya, Prabhat, my mobile phone, Anjali. You all have answered it correctly. Thank you so much. Answer this question as well. We'll see you soon.